As they discussed the matter, Park Soo-ho suddenly arrived, questioning their activities and expressing his concern over the risks he faced. He urged them to finish their meal quickly and head indoors, as he intended to inspect the land in Uijongbu. The scene then shifted to the Awakeners Bureau Director, seen having a phone conversation with the president. The director acknowledged that the reported amount of fight money had been reduced and reassured the president that distributing 5 billion to each recipient would suffice. As a precaution, they had also secured a contract where Park Soo-ho agreed to donate his winnings to the National Development Funds. With this arrangement, the director explained, they could suppress any speculation about internal conflicts within the country. He praised Park Soo-ho for his generosity and suggested that this act was just the beginning. He anticipated that the success of the agricultural project on Soo-ho land would bring even greater benefits in the future. Meanwhile, Park Soo-ho arrives on his wyvern at the facility that once housed the headquarters of the Third Corps, currently in the midst of relocation. Surveying the area, he envisions expanding and renovating it to accommodate approximately 1,000 people. Kim is already there to greet him, asking for his assessment from above. Park Soo-ho finds the location suitable and suggests planting within a 4-kilometer radius, which Kim notes for submission and approval. Using his tree spirit power, Park Soo-ho marks his territory, setting the boundaries for his future domain. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, a reporter addresses martial arts fans on the Worldwide Martial Arts channel. He announces the countdown to the Battle of the Century, featuring champion Liu against rookie Park Soo-ho. The Sidekick channel team has prepared footage from an earlier interview with both competitors. Strategically positioned in front of the Level 7 dungeon in Osaka, they approach Lee first. The reporter asks how he's preparing for the upcoming match against Park Soo-ho. Liu dismisses the need for specific preparations, citing the imminent increase in Level 7 dungeons and the pressing need to act for humanity's peace. Turning to Park Soo-ho's team, including the members, the reporter introduces himself as a sidekick and requests an interview. He inquires about Park Soo-ho and the Sidekick channel's interest in featuring him. Konggu suggests checking Uijonggu, speculating that Park Soo-ho is likely engaged in his tree planting activities at the moment. Meanwhile, Akiko sat in her hotel room at Junior Hotel, diligently attempting to gain access to Park Soo-ho's profile. After some time, she successfully breached the security measures. At the same time, news reports announced that DGB Construction had begun transporting building materials to Uijongbu for construction on Soo-ho land. With only 2 days left until the match, Park Soo-ho remained secluded within his land and had not yet arrived in Japan. On the other side of Tokyo, Akiko sat with Lee Sung-woo in the Tokyo Top City Hotel. Curious about his thoughts, she asked him how he planned to deal with Park Soo-ho if he didn't show up for the match. Lee Sung-woo pondered the question, considering the implications. Akiko expressed her doubts about it being an easy challenge. She then disclosed top-secret information she had accessed from Korea's Awakeners Bureau, revealing records about Park Soo-ho's history. According to these records, Park Soo-ho had returned after spending 1,000 years on another planet. Before we continue, take a moment to answer the question of the day. Best female warrior in Manhwa? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out. Now, back to the recap. Lee Sung-woo, aka Hero, questioned if Park Soo-ho had used a regression stone multiple times over 1,000 years. Akiko clarified that she didn't believe Park Soo-ho used a regression stone like Lee Sung-woo did. Lee Sung-woo insisted that it was impossible to live for 1,000 years without using a regression stone. Akiko then explained that, according to the records, Park Soo-ho had actually spent 10 years on another planet where time passed twice as fast as on Earth. She speculated that if Park Soo-ho had spent 500 years regressing on Earth, then spending 1,000 years on a planet with a different temporal flow was plausible. He further suggested that this discrepancy in time flow might explain why Lee Sung-woo had never encountered Park Soo-ho despite his own lengthy regressions. Lee Sung-woo wondered if, in the absence of a regression stone, Park Soo-ho had found an alternative method to extend his life, perhaps something akin to drinking from the fountain of eternal youth. Akiko then shared her research findings, mentioning a rare item known as the Crimson Divine Peach. This fruit was said to appear only once every 1,000 years on a particular planet and vanish after 10 days. It was considered a divine fruit capable of granting eternal youth and immortality to whoever consumed it. Expressing her concern, Akiko speculated that Park Soo-ho might have indeed lived longer than Lee Sung-woo due to such extraordinary means. On the other side, Park Soo-ho asserts that he won't allow anyone to obstruct his plans, declaring his determination against any opponent. Meanwhile, a commentator reports from the buzzing stadium 3 hours before the match. Speculation swirls as Park Soo-ho has yet to arrive in the country, leading to questions about his commitment to the match. The commentator joins in, stressing that even for an event match, facing SPFC's champion shouldn't be taken lightly. especially for a rookie like Park Soo-ho. The responsibility for the pre-match inspection rests on the Korean government, prompting calls for both Park Soo-ho and the government to issue apologies if he fails to show up. Across the arena, Hiro asks Akiko if there's any news on Park Soo-ho's whereabouts. Akiko responds with news from Korea that Soo-ho land has expanded to Uijeong. Hiro marvels at Park Soo-ho's foresight, noting that Uijeongbu is where the first level 7 dungeon appeared in Korea. He recalls the disastrous attempt by the combat unit to challenge the dungeon, resulting in half of Korea's S-rank awakeners lost, and Uijeongbu devastated by explosives used against level 7 monsters. Hiro fears an imminent wave of dungeon breaks sweeping across the continent from North to South Korea, potentially leading to South Korea's collapse. He understands the Korean government is pushing Park Soo-ho forward to prevent this grim outcome. Back at the stadium, the commentator announces only 7 minutes remain before the match begins. According to the rules, players must arrive at least an hour before the match or face disqualification. Uncertainty looms over whether Park Soo-ho will make it in time. Suddenly, the sound of a wyvern pierces the air, surprising everyone as Park Soo-ho arrives dramatically at Tokyo Stadium on his wyvern. The commentator exclaims that Park Soo-ho has defied expectations by appearing just in time, igniting excitement among the audience. Park Soo-ho lands and dismisses his wyvern through a portal, scanning the large crowd and inquiring about Hiro's whereabouts. The commentator informs him that Hiro is reportedly somewhere in the arena, prompting Park Soo-ho to call out his opponent's name. The spectators erupt into cheers and anticipation as the tension mounts for the epic confrontation about to unfold. Meanwhile, Lee Sung-woo was in a room with Akiko, preparing himself for the upcoming match. He informed her that he was heading out and reassured her not to worry, confidently stating that he would win and return safely. At the arena, Lee Sung-woo confronted Park Soo-ho, asking if he would allow him to ask a few questions before their battle. He first inquired if Park Soo-ho was a survivor of the apocalypse, to which Park Soo-ho responded with confusion, asking what the apocalypse was. Lee Sung-woo pressed on, questioning if there was another regression stone and how many years Park Soo-ho could regress with the one he possessed. He further probed about the nature of a regression stone. The commentator, recognizing the significance of their conversation, sent a transmission drone nearby to capture their dialogue. Lee Sung-woo taunted Park Soo-ho, suggesting that he must be enjoying returning to the past, feeling like he had the world at his feet again. Attempting to provoke Park Soo-ho further, Lee Sung-woo moved to attack, but Park Soo-ho swiftly retaliated by striking him in the face and throwing him aside. The sudden turn of events shocked everyone in the stadium and those watching the live broadcast. The commentator remarked that Lee Sung-woo appeared to have sustained significant damage and wasn't responding immediately. Park Soo-ho approached slowly, placing Lee Sung-woo in a precarious situation. He instructed Lee Sung-woo to get up, questioning how someone with the title of champion could be so weak. Lee Sung-woo managed to rise to his feet, his nose bleeding, and wondered if he had been struck by magic. Park Soo-ho commented on the necessity of humility, using a proverb about ants having queens and frogs in wells. Lee Sung-woo attempted another attack out of frustration, but Park Soo-ho effortlessly countered, employing tornado power to launch Lee Sung-woo into the air. He followed up with a shower of fire fairies. The commentator, witnessing this one-sided beating, expressed disbelief at the unexpected turn of events, reflecting the shock among the spectators. Park Soo-ho firmly grasped Lee Sung-woo by the neck, insisting that he not feign death because he knew Lee Sung-woo was still conscious. The status window displayed Lee Sung-woo's HP at 25%. Park Soo-ho decided to inquire further, asking Lee Sung-woo why he sought him out. Lee Sung-woo responded bluntly that he wanted to kill Park Soo-ho. Park Soo-ho pressed on, questioning why Lee Sung-woo believed he deserved to die. Lee Sung-woo asserted that it was because of Park Soo-ho that his meticulously crafted plan, developed over 500 years of hard work and dedication, had been ruined. Park Soo-ho was intrigued and asked Lee Sung-woo about this plan he had been working on for centuries. In response, Lee Sung-woo consumed a potion, transforming into the monstrous entity known as the Fury of God. Meanwhile, a man watches the events unfolding in the stadium on the screen, reflecting on the potion he took to recover his stamina. He notes that it seems he's learned some intriguing insights from planet Gushion. Suddenly, Hiro transforms, unleashing the devastating power of his god's fury. The stadium is ravaged, with spectators badly injured, and even some people taking a hit. Hiro employs a skill so lethal and powerful that it strains the limits of human endurance, forcing him to tap into the resilience of a monster's physique. Astoundingly, Hiro utilizes a skill he had reserved for a level 8 boss, the Toad Monarch, against a human opponent. Park Soo-ho, despite sustaining head injuries, manages to rise again, expressing astonishment at surviving such an ultimate attack. Queries Hiro about the item enhancing his strength and the technique used to unleash such power. Hiro clarifies that there's no item involved. Instead, it's a skill known as Forest Blessing. He dismisses the notion of regression, explaining that Forest Blessing is an elixir-grade skill capable of completely restoring lost stamina and mana within a mere 5 seconds. Hiro emphasizes the potency of this skill, asserting its equivalence to an elixir in its rejuvenating effects. Meanwhile, amidst the intense battle, Park Soo-ho launched a fierce attack on Lee Sung-woo, hurling him aside with a powerful strike. He remarked that it seemed the planet might face destruction because of Lee Sung-woo's actions. Lee Sung-woo retorted, asserting that his meticulously planned 500-year strategy had been disrupted by Park Soo-ho, thereby attributing the planet's potential demise to him. He vowed that Park Soo-ho should meet his end by his hands, questioning if Park Soo-ho comprehended how he had brought them to this critical juncture. With a swift kick and a forceful throw, Park Soo-ho asserted that Lee Sung-woo was simply deluded. Despite Lee Sung-woo's monstrous transformation, Park Soo-ho found it remarkable that there existed a human he couldn't defeat. Nevertheless, he showed no concern for the prospect of defeat and continued to pummel his opponent mercilessly. Throughout the onslaught, Park Soo-ho reiterated that he wasn't responsible for the ruin of Lee Sung-woo's plan. Park Soo-ho resolved to enlighten Lee Sung-woo about reality, intending to extract all of his adversary's knowledge and power in the ensuing battle. He proclaimed that he, as the world's savior, must prevail. Transforming himself into a black wolf, Park Soo-ho delivered a powerful punch that reverted Lee Sung-woo back to his human form, shattering his stone replica in the process. Transforming again, this time into an eagle, Park Soo-ho approached Lee Sung-woo, questioning his thoughts and asking if he could now perceive the real world. He warned Lee Sung-woo that his inability to save Earth over centuries was due to his own weakness. Park Soo-ho issued a stern warning, advising Lee Sung-woo never to trespass into his territory again, threatening to end his life if he did. He emphasized the impending apocalypse, predicting that 95% of humankind would perish, including Lee Sung-woo, if they didn't change their ways soon. His adversary retorts, questioning why his past should dictate his future. Privately, he reflects that there seems to be no future for someone like him who remains mired in the past. Meanwhile, Choi Soo-young watches a match unfold. The commentator notes how Park Soo-ho, transformed into an eagle, flies towards Hiro, who has collapsed. She recalls the hospital incident where Park Soo-ho told her they couldn't be together because of her perceived weakness. She contemplates the delicate balance of strengths in relationships, fearing that imbalances lead to inevitable fractures. On the other side, Park Soo-ho secures victory in the match and selflessly donates all winnings to Japan. The families of the injured collectively file lawsuits against Hiro, who remains unconscious for a week. During this time, Hiro experiences a haunting dream where Park Soo-ho warns him. Abruptly waking, he questions how much time has passed, reaching for his phone to check the news. However, Akiko arrives and swiftly takes his phone away, warning him not to expose himself to public reactions. Still reeling from his defeat, she checks on his well-being, to which he responds with a desire for solitude. Akiko acquiesces, emphasizing the need for stability. Hiro rises from his bed and gazes out the window, observing protests brewing outside the hospital. He muses bitterly on the fickleness of those who once idolized him, despite his unwavering dedication to them. Turning his attention to the stone of replica, he laments missed opportunities, convinced that if he had held out a bit longer, he could have replicated everything. His thoughts then turn to the regression stone, explaining its ability to transport him back 20 years to Earth. Contemplating his next move, he resolves that his only option now is to go back in time and eliminate Park Soo-ho. He mentions the possibility of upgrading the regression stone to level 3, estimating activation in about 2 years. Meanwhile, Nobusuke and his friends enter Hiro's room, checking on him to see if he's awake and all right. They inform him that they've been ordered by the Bureau to bring him along. Hiro expresses surprise, stating he received no prior notice. Tahiro and Ui explain they were also summoned and coincidentally met on the way. Hiro reflects on how all the S-rank awakeners in Tokyo have gathered at the Bureau's summons. He instructs Nobusuke and the others to wait outside while he prepares himself. Reluctantly, they agree, urging him to come along quietly. Shimizu and Rokudo stand guard outside the door, prompting Hiro to scoff at the idea that just the 5 of them could defeat him. Nobusuke reassures him it's a simple investigation. He only needs to cooperate briefly. Hiro considers that the defense agency likely recorded his entire conversation with Park Soo-ho on the day of the match and speculates they are curious about the items in his inventory. He questions if they also covet the regression stone, wondering if they plan to imprison and torture him for it. Nobusuke clarifies it's due to missing items from reports, and Toshihiro suggests using such items for the citizens' benefit. Infuriated by their suggestions, Hiro declares they've crossed a line and warns Japan will face consequences for their actions today. Suddenly, they launch an attack on him, but Hiro activates the fury of God, countering their assaults effortlessly. He challenges them, asserting his strength despite his recent defeat, and threatens Toshihiro with dire consequences if they persist. They plead for him to stop, but Hiro insists on knowing who gave the order. Eventually, he learns it was Commissioner Takeo of the Supernatural Bureau. Hiro reflects on Takeo's staunch patriotism and preference for bloodlines, likely uncomfortable with his cooperation due to his opposition to Korea. He believes Takeo had been waiting for an opportunity to act upon his failure, questioning his loyalty to Japan. Takeo's decision stems from Hiro's team raiding level 7 dungeons, resulting in 9 deaths. Hiro contemplates the gravity of the situation as tensions rise between him and the Bureau, preparing for the challenging confrontation ahead. Park Suho questioned whether Lee Sung-woo had ever transformed into a monster or used an elixir to heal his team, noting that the skills and items displayed during their battle had never been documented anywhere. He suggested that all reports submitted by Combat Team 1 of the Defense Agency might be false, implying that Lee Sung-woo hid items meant for national defense for personal gain. Park Suho proposed a cautious approach before initiating a special investigation committee, recommending they first ask Lee Sung-woo questions to dispel doubts, not because they didn't trust him, but to clarify the situation. He accused Takeo of possibly wanting to take all the items Lee Sung-woo possessed for himself, and insinuated that Takeo might have promised him the position of captain of Japan's Combat Team 1 if things went smoothly. Lee Sung-woo defended himself, asserting that his loyalty to the defense agency had never been in question, especially since his previous service in the Navy. He revealed his motivation to witness the destruction of Japan 25 times and to rebuild human civilization there, due to its geographical advantages. However, he lamented that these plans were now in ruins due to what he perceived as the insatiable greed of the country. Inquiring about Akiko's awareness of these events, Park Suho was informed that she was indeed knowledgeable about them. In a fit of anger, he killed Toshiro, a member of Combat Team 1. The news subsequently reported that Lee Sung-woo had killed 2 Awakeners and injured 3 others before making his escape. Meanwhile, in Japan's Supernatural Bureau, Commissioner Takeo expresses his deep-seated distrust, particularly in helping outsiders, citing the recent incident involving Lee Suo. He voices his belief that they took in a man abandoned by Korea and elevated him to hero status, only for him to betray them at the first opportunity. Takeo suspects that Lee Suo may have been a spy planted by Korea from the very beginning. Takeo sees this betrayal as a significant threat to national security and views the incident as an opportunity to purge any potential threats within their borders. He resolves to replace those deemed unreliable with individuals of pure Japanese descent, whom he views as more trustworthy heroes. In response to this crisis, Takeo instructs Katano to immediately contact all broadcasting stations and the press. He orders a briefing about Lee to be convened in the conference room within the next 2 hours. The media swiftly picks up on the directive, spreading the news of Park Suho's rise as the world's strongest individual in his new territory. The Suo Guild experiences a surge in membership, and anticipation builds as Uijong prepares to become Seoul's 13th district. Meanwhile, Dong-soo watched intently as a news report unfolded before him. It detailed champion heroes' daring escape after committing murder, followed by the disappearance and subsequent killing of 2 S-rank Awakeners. The broadcast grew even more alarming as it revealed Mr. Takeo from Japan's Awakened Federation, calling for an emergency press conference at the government office. Mr. Takeo openly voiced suspicions that Lee Sung-woo might be a spy sent by Korea, demanding urgent explanations from the Korean government regarding the recent terrorist activities linked to Lee Sun-woo. In swift response, a spokesperson from the Blue House held a briefing at the archives, vehemently rejecting Commissioner Takeo's allegations as unfounded and expressing deep resentment towards Japan's perceived provocation. Dong-soo mulled over the news, skeptical that someone as severely beaten by Suho as Hiro would dare to approach their location again. He made a decision. He would search for Suho, especially since Suho had been absent during crucial moments before. After a while, Dong-soo noticed something familiar in the sky. A new member of the Suho Guild screamed and bolted from the side, signaling that Hiro might indeed have arrived. Dong-soo wasted no time and began running towards the commotion. Just then, Jaishik appeared and questioned their sudden rush. Dong-soo explained his suspicion that Hiro had arrived, having received a report from the detection team about a nearby portal. They hurriedly moved towards the scene where a new portal was opening, its energy signature indicating it was a level 7 dungeon with dimension energy, measuring a staggering 7,530, with a potential break in just 42 days. The gravity of the situation hit them hard. Park Junho voiced concern over admitting individuals to their guild without fully assessing their capabilities, fearing the catastrophic consequences if the dungeon were to break open. Uncertainty loomed over their next steps. Myungjin suggested relocating before the dungeon's potential breach, but Park Junho hesitated, unsure if Suho would allow them to leave. The absence of Suho during such a critical moment puzzled Jang Jae-shik, prompting them to decide to split up and search for Suho in different directions before making any further decisions. As tensions mounted, a weasel suddenly materialized in the center of their group, questioning their motives for being there. Park Junho, feeling the weight of their ambition to become the 13th District Branch managers, candidly admitted that they were driven by their desire for prestige. The weasel acknowledged their honesty, explaining they were chosen by the government for this larger hunting ground and encouraged them to embrace the wilderness. Highlighting a significant opportunity, the weasel asked if they were willing to hunt with gratitude. Handong expressed gratitude but pointed out their current E-rank levels. Unperturbed, the weasel countered that their prey practically offered itself to be caught, warning that running away would only return them to their pasts. He challenged their resolve, questioning if they desired to regress, which they vehemently denied, reaffirming their dedication to progress. Deciding to move forward, the group suddenly witnessed the weasel transform into Park Suho himself. Impressed by the newcomer's improvement, Park Suho stressed the importance of managing construction efforts. He designated 2 people for the first raid, instructing them to follow closely. Dong-soo, feeling regretful about missing out on the opportunity to join the first raid of a level 7 dungeon in Korea, resolved to participate this time. Before we continue, let's take a moment to shout out at Donks 2507 who commented, "Back to the city, the strongest investment king," on our Millionary System video. Thanks for commenting. They entered the level 7 dungeon, encountering an undeveloped land fraught with attacks. Meanwhile, news broadcasts reported that following the recent events in Japan, a level S dungeon had finally emerged in Korea. This marked the 8th level S dungeon globally and the 2nd in Asia. Major foreign media outlets anticipated this development, causing chaos at the international airport as people sought to escape. The awakened bureau convened a meeting to strategize their response amidst the escalating crisis. The reporter concluded the news flash by confirming that a team of 3 from Suho Land, including Park Suho himself, had already entered the dungeon, poised to confront the challenges within. Meanwhile, at the awakened bureau, the director acknowledged the exceptional performance of broadcasting stations, likening it to having a listening device within their own building, questioned whether they promptly reported the appearance of the dungeon, and noted that Park Suho, Dong-soo, and Jang Jae-shik were currently inside. A gray-haired individual inquired why those 2 were brought along, to which the bespectacled one explained Dong-soo's unique video memory skill. The director suggested creating a video recording for subsequent teams. The bespectacled one countered that there were already numerous videos online of foreign teams clearing level 7 dungeons. The discussion shifted to the combat team's readiness, with the gray-haired individual reporting that all 13 teams within the bureau were on standby. However, the majority were B-rank awakeners, with only a few A ranks available. Another person added that time was pressing, as they needed to clear the dungeon 88 times within 42 days to prevent its collapse. The bespectacled one checked data on a tablet, mentioning Lee Sungwoo's team had set a record of 8 days inside the dungeon, equivalent to 20 Earth days due to the time dilation. This meant they needed to clear it twice a day on average. Considering the dire situation, a gray-haired individual suggested evacuating the country. The bespectacled one proposed reaching out to guilds for cooperation, fortifying the So defense wall in preparation for the dungeon's collapse. The director expressed concern that if a second level 7 dungeon appeared within Seoul, everyone would be at risk. He questioned the strength of Suho Guild's wall of trees, pointing out that even if monsters could be confined behind it, subsequent dungeons would pose an insurmountable challenge. The director concluded that as long as the level 7 dungeon in Suho Land was managed, it would be the safest place on the planet. He asked if Section Chief Kim Miso was present at Suho Land and suggested they call her to assess the situation on site. After a while, they observed Suho Land with a drone to locate Kim Miso. They commented that it was quieter than expected and noted that construction was still underway. DGB construction was visibly involved in infrastructure development, while workers appeared peaceful, some even engaging in activities like a child riding a wolf, prompting them to wonder if it was some kind of war game, or if they were still in Korea, as it seemed like another world entirely. The director questioned if the drone had indeed reached Suho Land in Uijeonggu and confirmed Kim Miso's location through it. He observed her sunbathing near what looked like the soldiers' dormitory building, approached her. Upon his greeting, she promptly asked who he was, to which the director identified himself and asked if she was Choi Seong. Kim Miso clarified that it was lunchtime and apologized for any inconvenience, prompting the director to ask for a brief update on the situation on site. Kim Miso explained that initially, There was some unrest when the Level S dungeon first appeared, mainly due to the evacuation procedures. However, after Park Soo-ho's team ventured into the dungeon for a raid, the situation had stabilized. She reported that 3 hours after the dungeon's emergence, infrastructure construction was proceeding as planned. Park Junho, the vice guild master of Suho Guild, was overseeing operations, while Monk Myungjin from the guild was involved in training recruits. Satisfied with the report, the director pondered aloud that while the entire country of Korea seemed to be in a panic, Suho Land felt like an entirely different world. Just then, General Manager Choi entered the room and informed them that the Ministry of Defense had deployed Sun Jin-woo's 77A Special Forces unit to Uijeonggu. The director approved of this decision, emphasizing the importance of preventing a dungeon break at all costs. He expressed confidence in Park Soo-ho's abilities and declared that he would now assume the role of on-site commander for the Level S dungeon. The scene shifts abruptly to a darkened room where Akiko, tied to a chair, is startled as Commissioner Takeo enters and asks if she's awake. With defiance, she retorts that he's mistaken, but Takeo presses on, threatening her with electrocution and displaying her bracelet, a significant find since she rarely wears it and had hidden it well. Curious, she asks how he obtained it. Takeo smirks, stating they've already thoroughly examined its contents. Demanding to know their intentions, Akiko dismisses the bracelet as a mere diary, but Takeo reveals it contains detailed predictions of the future, outlining who will rise as heroes or villains, predicting incidents and even foreseeing the world's end. He explains how he used this foresight to gather individuals of great potential, molding them into a team that elevated him to champion status and earned him hero worship across Japan. Takeo credits this success to a regression stone he possesses. Cutting through the tension, Akiko asks if this is what Takeo wants from her. He presses her to disclose Lee Su's whereabouts, promising to fulfill her desires in return. Claiming ignorance, Akiko insists she doesn't know. Watching through a glass wall, a figure confirms her truthfulness to Takeo's disappointment. Despite this setback, Takeo comments bitterly on their unwitting creation of Lee Su as an enemy. Takeo pronounces Akiko's fate, a lifetime in the awakened exclusive prison with a grim end awaiting her. Unfazed, Akiko suggests Takeo doesn't have time to concern himself with her fate, hinting that Lee Su will likely seek him out soon. Moments later, an operator shows Takeo a video of Lee Su, stating it's the last known footage as he has gone underground. He stated that they were currently tracking him down with drones, emphasizing that Hiro was a villain attempting to overthrow them by luring Korean awakeners and citizens to his country. He urged using all possible means to locate him and hold him accountable for his crimes, convinced that Hiro certainly possessed a regression stone in his inventory. Meanwhile, on a beach, Hiro sat watching the news on his phone. The broadcast revealed the list of guild members who had joined Park Soo-ho in his raid of the Level 7 dungeon. He noted it was a 3-man team with Jang Jae-shik at D rank and Dong Soo at I rank. Musing about how much Park Soo-ho could change the world with his strength, he made notes in a notebook, planning to gather more information about Park Soo-ho for his next regression. The news further reported that Korea's best combat team, Special Forces Unit 77A, was en route to Uijeonggu. Hiro commented on Korea's destruction starting in earnest after the annihilation of the combat team led by Korea's top-ranked awakener. Despite the appearance of a Level 7 dungeon, Buos remained peaceful. He grimly reflected that when the end of the world arrived, those bright faces would be stained with blood and tears, resolving that if he survived, it would help them smile again. Meanwhile, members of F Unit 77A arrived at the Suho Guild. The director also arrived, meeting Park Junho and Kim Miso. Kim Miso questioned why he was there, to which he replied, expressing his inability to sit calmly in the office while the country faced a crisis. He informed Park Junho that the Awakened Bureau and the Ministry of Defense had decided to fully support the Suho Guild in response to ease citizen anxiety. Park Junho expressed Park Suho's disapproval of outsiders entering their territory under such circumstances. The director acknowledged this, but stressed that the Level 7 dungeon's appearance constituted a national crisis, not solely the Suho Guild's responsibility. She assured Kim Miso that she would do her best to explain the situation to Park Suho when he emerged, and confirmed their willingness to compensate appropriately for using the dungeon. After a while, Kim Miso found herself alone with the director, questioning his presence. He bristled at her inquiry, asserting that the director of the bureau should not remain inactive during such a national crisis. Kim Miso speculated whether he had chosen this location because it seemed safest, to which he challenged her perception and ordered her to stop the nonsensical talk, insisting they establish his command post immediately. He directed that all available aces, including Choi Soo-young from the detection team, be transferred to join them, emphasizing Su-young should already be in the barracks. Turning to another matter, he queried about the defensive wall of trees in the area, questioning its invulnerability even to missiles. Kim Miso admitted uncertainty, suggesting he tested himself. Meanwhile, Sun Jinu approached Park Junho, advising against causing any difficulties for the director. Jinu proposed establishing their post in that location if the director permitted, noting the director's actions seemed motivated by patriotism rather than avoiding trouble. He concluded, "Let him do as he wishes," requested they ensure soldiers' and civilians' paths did not intersect, given the soldiers' heightened sensitivity due to the impending raid. Elsewhere, a robust soldier finished his meal, remarking cynically that this place seemed like where trash accumulated, except for Park Suho, though the food was exceptional. His companion nodded towards Granny, who was hurriedly cooking for 200 people, suggesting the food might not suffice. Their conversation was interrupted by a newcomer from the Suho Guild, who accidentally bumped into the soldier, provoking his ire. In a fit of anger, the soldier grabbed the newbie by the collar and shouted at him. Meanwhile, Gunwoo piled bread on a tray, attempting to escape while getting slapped in the face. Granny Sua, incensed, threw a knife, warning him not to touch the bread due to shortages. Ignoring her, Gunwoo leapt out of the window and offered the bread to monkeys nearby, leaving chaos in his wake. From the window, the healthy soldier spotted Gunwoo and inquired about his identity. His friend explained that Gunwoo was Park Suho's nephew, noting his agile movements reminiscent of an awakened monkey. The soldier commented on Granny's sharp aim with the knives and expressed frustration over nearly being hit. His friend retorted that it was because Gunwoo had caused a scene, asking if he was prepared to face consequences similar to those faced by Lee Su. Curious, the soldier questioned if Granny was also part of Park Suho's family and remarked on the apparent eccentricity within that family. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a man Wu sat with the director in an office. The director asked why he was there, to which he responded that they planned to initiate the raid that day. The director hesitated, suggesting the soldiers had just arrived and might benefit from a day's rest. The man disagreed, stating they had already rested enough and had sent cooperation requests to each guild, adjusting plans for additional combat teams. He implored the director to trust them if they still thought more manpower was unnecessary. The man clarified it wasn't about trust, but efficiency, highlighting the potential losses even Lee Suong's renowned team had faced. For their country, which lacked manpower compared to Japan, any casualties would be significant. He emphasized the need to proceed cautiously, to avoid jeopardizing future raids, especially with elite forces en route from Boos. The director acknowledged his points and agreed to keep Unit 707 on standby for one more day. Meanwhile, in the camps, Choi Soo-young slept as Kim Miso approached, playfully tossing a fire fairy at her. Kim Miso teased Soo-young for not greeting them properly upon her return after a long absence, questioning why she was just resting. Soo-young replied that being away had been preferable. Kim Miso teased her about Park Suho's influence, prompting Soo-young to question what that had to do with her. What will happen next? Find out next time by staying tuned for our future recaps. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great recaps.